Welcome in, everybody. It's your host, Christopher Renne here, and this is episode 30 of the Chris Renne Show. Man, it was a blur of a weekend. Don't really remember it all that much. I remember watching the Amry-Navy game. I played a lot of UFC 3, got it for free, rolled up, saw the Heisman Trophy announced. Kind of have some opinions on that are be coming up on the show. I've got a final tonight, but it's showtime, baby. Let's keep it rolling. Let's keep my routine regular. Apologies for no pints last week. Finals week's been pretty contagious and filling of schedules. Including my stats final Friday. Took it. Now it's time to pray. Alright, so first and foremost, first topic of the day. We're going to get into the Heisman Trophy. Alright, so the Heisman Trophy, you go through the list of some of the past winners from Roger Staubach to Ernie Davis to some of the biggest snubs of all time in Jim Brown, Vince Young. So an award, it's a popularity contest. It goes to the best player in the country, and if you saw me, you would have seen the air quotes. It's kind of like the MVP award in the NBA. So the Heisman Trust votes on it every year, and you can vote going into starting the Monday after the final regular season game of the season. But with the amount of conference championships are played, it's absolutely criminal to do that. By the time the awards were announced, the three finalists that went to New York, in order, I'm going to read you their names and a couple of their stats. Alright, this is before Saturday, before it was announced, so this is the way I'm doing it. Kyler Murray, 4,053 throwing yards, 70% completion percentage, 40 touchdowns, 7 picks. Had like 700 rush yards, 12-1 Big 12 champs, redeemed himself against the only team he lost against throughout the year. Played his most explosive football early, played his best ball late, and in the middle of the season had quite a few lulls. Tua Tagovailoa, the Alabama super quarterback, the one who changed Alabama from a contender to a sure thing. Until we saw him play at Georgia. Tua, 3,353 yards, 67%, 37 touchdowns, 4 INTs. Played pretty consistently throughout the year. I'd say his worst game was against the conference championship in Georgia, which was all culminated in the end by his injury and Jalen Hurts coming in and doing what Tua had done all year. I think Tua lost the Heisman literally in the conference championship game. That's my opinion on that. Great stats. Didn't play many fourth quarters and all that. And here's the homegrown, my man, Dwayne the Train Haskins. 4,580 yards. Notice, that's more than the other two. 47 touchdowns. Notice, that's more than the other two. 8 interceptions. It's more than the other two. His best games came late. He had big wins against TCU, against Penn State. His biggest came against the rival, the University of Michigan. And then he goes and puts it on Northwestern in the conference championship with some of the best throws I have ever seen. I think Kyler won. Kyler won. That's not up for debate. That's not up for debate for the rest of eternity, unless, say, he got paid some money, like a certain running back from Southern California. Not going to name names, but I don't think that'll happen. I don't think that'll be a thing. I think Oklahoma's always ran a pretty good program ever since that Switzer guy left, but here we go. So, Kyler won. I have no disrespect to Kyler winning. He had a great season. His numbers insane in a conference that plays no defense. Nonetheless, but that means he really had to put up these numbers to win because it's such an offensively inclined conference. You think back to games like the one he played against West Virginia, I think that's the game that won him the Heisman. I really do, when he took over that game late and let it fly and threw that bomb of a touchdown late, then had that insanely long athletic run he had against West Virginia that put him away. Tua, from the get-go, was a Heisman favorite from opening whistle of the season. He showed it from game one that he was the best quarterback on Alabama, and he showed it almost every game of the year, and that led to him being pulled at halftime quite a bit and not playing many fourth quarters. So his stats were a little hurt. Was he the best player in the country? Debatable. He played on the best team, and he was a very important part of that team, but I think that team's success wasn't weighed on the shoulders of Tua. Moving on to the third candidate, once again, Dwayne Haskins. He kind of flew under the radar for quite a bit of the season. After the Penn State game, his Heisman sort of peaked, and then it started going down when Ohio State as a team started struggling. Now, Haskins didn't very much struggle, but the rest of Ohio State did, and it led to that loss against Purdue, which, if you look at the other two players on this list, they don't have a glaring loss like that. Now, granted, Dwayne's stats in that game were absurd. His team still lost a bad game. I don't think I'm mad about the results of the Heisman as much as I'm mad about how Dwayne Haskins was treated throughout the process. Because if you look at some of the lead up to it, a lot of it was two people being talked about, Tua and Kyler Murray. The biggest issue of it for me was when there was a big interview and they did not even include Dwayne Haskins in it, and ESPN did that, and there's a lot of conspiracies going around that it's ESPN owns the SEC network and the Big 12 doesn't have a network, so it doesn't matter, and the Big 10's owned by Fox. I think it's less of that. I do think going in, Tua and Kyler were very much big-time favorites for the award, but you invited a third person, and if you weren't going to treat him as a Heisman finalist, you should have just let him stay home because the experience was unfair. And I know Dwayne Haskins will never say that, but he was treated very poorly, and in some articles I read by Bill Landis from The Athletic, he said that Dwayne was a little bothered by the way he was being treated, but he was never going to show it on camera. He said that in passing, Dwayne Haskins said, this is just the motivation I needed to get even more better. I'm okay. I'm like, I know it's not something you should be mad about, but I think if you're going to be an award and you're going to invite all these people, you're supposed to treat them all like they're the same. It's like, have you ever watched the Academy Awards? Last year, you never know who's going to win the Academy Awards until the very last minute. Sometimes you have a feeling, but sometimes there's shocks. In comparison to the Academy Awards, they go through every finalist like it has a realistic shot of winning. And I think that's the way the Heisman Trust needs to treat all of the candidates. It doesn't matter if you're a fifth place, probably Mountain West Conference quarterback. You need to be treated like all the other finalists. And then once the winner is announced, the winner will get preferential treatment the rest of the night because guess what? They won the prestigious award from the Heisman Trust. I'm okay. I think Dwayne's going to put on in the Rose Bowl. I think Tua's going to win the title. And I think Kyler's going to walk away with this award and go play baseball. I think all of them are going to end up having pretty good careers. But something to think about. Name a Heisman Trophy winner in the NFL that was extremely successful. because I have a little segment I'm going to do right after this that talks about the guys who lost. But, name a successful Heisman Trophy winner. Best Heisman winners in the NFL. Roger Staubach comes to mind. He's probably the best to do it. Tony Dorsett was pretty successful. Earl Campbell, Marcus Allen. Those are all pretty good. Paul Hornung. But, look how long ago that was. Look how long ago that was. It's very rare that a Heisman winner also has success in the NFL. 9 Heisman Trophy winners have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. There have been 82 winners, and that means you're the best player in college football. And now Charles Woodson has been announced, so 10 out of 82 winners are in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, so, obviously you get put into this special category that you have to be this special player, and throughout the last decade or so, some of these Heisman winners just haven't had games that translated to the NFL. You think Tim Tebow, you think weaker armed quarterbacks, you think Reggie Bush, you think Matt Leinart, you go through that list. Mark Ingram's played pretty well, but I don't think by any means he's going to be a Hall of Famer. You have some good players that are Heisman winners, but they don't come out and become these perennial all-pro quarterbacks. And a lot of that can do with a lot of these guys are playing on the best teams at the time. A lot of these guys have styles that fit college offenses, like the spread offenses, like Tebow when he played for Urban Meyer. A lot of these guys' skill sets max out as a 5th year or a 4th year senior in college or a 4th year junior. You look at Johnny Manziel. His arm was strong enough in college, but once you're running around and you're not a very big guy in the NFL and your arm strength, you don't have those lucky plays. You don't have those plays where you can throw it across your body, across the middle to Mike Evans, who's an all-pro wide receiver playing in the SEC. You don't have those plays in the NFL as often. You see the Big Bens making them, but they make them when they have to, not because it's their game. So, going into it, Kyler won. 10 out of 82 Heisman winners have made it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But there are 5 insanely great players. And these are 5 examples. These are kind of a top 5, kind of not, because these players are all pretty great. Number 5, I'm going to start. These are my top 5 Heisman runner-ups. Number 5, Joe Theismann. He was on pace to be an all-time quarterback well until Lawrence Taylor broke his leg. Joe Theismann was an all-pro. He was a Super Bowl champion. He was a very talented quarterback. He was a runner-up for Notre Dame. He's a college football Hall of Famer, so that just shows you the level he was playing at Notre Dame. He's an extremely talented guy, and then he broke his leg. He probably would have been a multiple Super Bowl winner because Doug Williams, another quarterback for the Redskins, went on to win 2 Super Bowls for the Redskins. And those probably would have been Joe Theismann's if he stayed healthy. It was a horrific injury. It doesn't take away from the stats he put up before he got hurt. Unfortunately, he's not a Hall of Famer, but he still put out a great career and has a lot of recognition in the media as well, and a lot of respect from his peers for the player he was. All right, so number 4 on my list, I'm going to go with Steve Young, the heir apparent to Joe Montana in San Francisco, the BYU run and gun, run and shoot wizard, the lefty, the Mormon, the Super Bowl champ, a perennial All-Pro, a Hall of Famer, put up insane stats in college, went and played in the USFL because he was undersized, then got picked up by the 49ers when that league collapsed to be the to replace Joe Montana. Cutthroat. It's why the 49ers went on to win more Super Bowls. It's why the Patriots are so good. But Steve Young is my fourth greatest Heisman runner-up of all time. I think he shows the epitome of why the award doesn't really matter. He was a smaller school guy. BYU was an independent. It always has been. He was a great player for him, and a lot of Mountain West and smaller conference players have been screwed by the award. Another one that comes to mind on this list is Marshall Faulk. He played at San Diego State. He put up some of the most insane numbers of all time for a running back, but couldn't come close really to sniffing the Heisman because of, where he played. Number 3, Adrian Peterson. A lot of people just assume this guy won it, but he was playing in a very competitive era. He had Sam Bradford who won it. He had Tim Tebow who won it. I think his freshman year, Troy Smith won it. So, yeah, he put on for 3 years at Adrian Peterson. Absolutely dominated the Big 12 as a running back, but never got the award because during this time period, it was very much a quarterback's only award. There was like a 6-year stretch, and then it went to Mark Ingram or something like that. It went Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Troy Smith, I want to say. Then it went Tebow. But that's beyond the point. Adrian Peterson got robbed probably multiple times for how talented he was and how good the teams he played on were. Then he had an injury his junior year, and it really took away his chances to win the Heisman that year. And then he came and played one of his biggest games of his career against Boise State. And yeah, we all know how that turned out. If you don't look it up, Adrian Peterson coming back from injury to play Boise State. Adrian Peterson, to me, was probably the greatest running back of the first generation NFL that I really watched. Every time you turn on the highlights, he was either breaking a ton of tackles and running through a bunch of people, or outrunning a whole entire defense to the left side after a power run and a cutback. He touched some yards per carry records that hadn't been touched for decades. He touched 2,000 yards, which is one of the hardest things to do as a running back in any level, let alone the NFL. And he is just a sensational talent, and he's still doing it for Washington, and that's kind of crazy to me. Number 2, John Elway. Multiple Super Bowls, Hall of Fame, baseball contract, absolute legend. The current general manager and or president of the Broncos. He was very much snubbed as the Heisman winner. He played at Stanford, a smart school. He played baseball and football in college. He really never made the decision until, the Colts traded that first pick. The Broncos got him and had one of the best quarterbacks for a decade and a half. He was one of the first quarterbacks to play near 40 and play at a high level to that, winning his 2 Super Bowls in his last 3 years as a quarterback. I think him is an example of the true greatness that comes from not winning the Heisman. I think that motivated John Elway, and I think going to Yankees camp and seeing that the Yankees were gross kind of put him into football more so. And it was awesome, and John Elway is an exact reason he shouldn't win the Heisman. Top 5 Heisman runners-ups. Now we're on to Peyton Manning, number 1, the best, the sheriff. I've got a picture with him. Not a real picture with him. I got a picture with the statue when I went to Lucas Oil. Not this past weekend, but the weekend prior for the Big Ten Conference Championship game. May post it, may not. Kind of cute. Might delete later. Doesn't matter to me. May matter to you guys. Many all-time NFL records. Tom Brady just broke his most recent one. I think Tom Brady's really close on the yards. Drew Brees is coming fast and hot. Peyton got to the league a little earlier than Tom and a little earlier than Drew. They're finally catching up to Peyton in age, but Peyton Manning did not win the Heisman, did not win a national title, but was one of the greatest quarterbacks in college football history. Peyton Manning at Tennessee lost to Charles Woodson, and then didn't even get a chance to redeem himself in the national title because he played for a national title because he played Nebraska. And guess who didn't? And guess who was scared to play Nebraska and or Tennessee? Didn't play either of them. That University of Michigan, those squares, they did not play a game that mattered. After that, he was really good, man. His stats were insane. Did not win the Heisman, but he put up 3,800 yards his senior year, 36 touchdowns to 11 picks, 147.7 QB rating. Ran for negative 30 yards and 3 touchdowns, but that's when the sacks still counted towards your rush total. Or started counting towards your rush total, I mean. Manning was selected by the Indianapolis Colts with the first overall pick of the 1998 draft, and the rest was history. So, congrats to Kyler Murray. But just because you didn't win the most prestigious award in college football, because of possible biases, because you played one bad game in the conference championship, because the person who won it played in a conference with no defense and needed to put up those numbers of stats, you got a shot to have a great career. Now, Dwayne, I'm not going to beg you to stay because there's a lot of money on the line, and you could go to a really good team. Tua, you got another year, bro. You got this. Kyler, don't know what you're doing? Go play baseball, man. Get that bread. But, hey, sometimes second, third, fourth, not too bad. A lot of great players haven't won the Heisman. A lot more great players haven't won the Heisman than have. Just think of that. Think of that. Maybe you don't always want to be the best. You want to be the best later. Whew. All right, so moving on, college football. So I think the greatest rivalry in the sport's Ohio State, Michigan. Wonder why? No bias there. But my number 2 shouldn't surprise anybody, but everyone seems to forget about this game and its meaning. And it's the Army versus Navy game. The Navy midshipmen and the Army Black Knights play an inaugural game every year. It's the last game of the year, every football season. It's the last regular season game. Army versus Navy. The Army Black Knights have been the better team the last couple of years. Navy has kind of hit a little standstill. But that happens. Both of them. The best part about this game to me is the fact that all these people, and I think this is said before every single game, are really willing to die for their brother. A lot of football coaches over-dramatize that you need to be able to take a bullet for your teammate if you're really going to play your hardest for them. And these guys are prime examples of truly embodying that spirit. The Army-Navy game has people who have dedicated their lives to service. They've dedicated their life to becoming a soldier, and their peace and their fun comes from playing the sports they're allowed to play at these military universities. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not all fun and games at these schools, but that's why them getting the opportunity to continue their football careers while also doing the great courageous act of serving their country is such a powerful part of this game. Football isn't the main priority for these guys. The main priority for the guys playing in this game is to become a great leader and become a great person, so when they are serving their country, they can serve it to the fullest of their capabilities, and football is an added bonus to it. They have a rivalry in all sports, obviously, like most schools, but when they play basketball, it doesn't mean as much. When they play baseball, it's kind of cool, but it's not the same. Football is a battlefield, and not a battlefield like these guys are going to go to, but a battlefield in which your brother in arms is going to have just as much chance to get hurt as they are to come away with a win and a victory. So every game, regardless of result, is a powerful embodiment of what military service means. And watching some of these guys play, I remember watching it year in and year out when Keenan Reynolds was the quarterback. I remember this guy named Steelman, and this goes all the way back to Roger Staubach, who went to Navy during, I think it was the Vietnam War. And he served, and then he came back and played in the NFL and went on to have a Hall of Fame career. And I think that's one of the craziest things. I remember playing for Navy in the NCAA video game because I loved running the triple option. The second thing about this game that I love is it's an homage to old school football. It's hard running. It's triple option. It's flex bone formation. It's wishbone formation. They're running the triple option. The ball's getting lateral. You're using a fullback to run. It was low scoring. It honestly, to non-football fans, probably is kind of a boring game. But to people who love football, it is one of the best games of all time. Army won 10 games this year, and I don't think people understand how hard that is for a military school to do. Military schools have some advantages where they can have as many players on their team as they want, but they also don't get the top recruits because a lot of the top recruits don't want to serve 4 years in military. A lot of the kids who play at these schools are great students, great people, great athletes, but usually they're undersized, not big enough to play at a big school, and now they realize they could do more with their lives by doing this. And you look at the stats, and it's a highly, there was very little throws. Navy threw the ball, let me do the math there, 17 times, which for this game is a lot, but they were playing down most of it. Army's dominated their competition for the most part. They almost beat Oklahoma. That would have been wild. Didn't. Lost to Duke, but Duke was coming out pretty hot at the beginning of the year. Yeah, I think it's an awesome game. I think everyone should watch it. It's a game. It's even more special when the president comes and watches it. It's been awesome. It's a historical game that dates all the way back to the beginning of college football, and at times when you've got a quarterback like Roger Staubach there, Navy had a chance to win a national title, which was insane. He was one of the greatest college football players of all time, and before a lot of people started saying a lot of these modern players are the greatest of all time, Roger Staubach made a pretty good argument that he was. So, yeah, I think that's one of the greatest events in the sports. I just wanted to touch on it real quick. I very much enjoyed watching it. I think Ken Nia, I don't want to pronounce it wrong, but I'm going to. Ken Nia Tamala Niumatololo. Yep, I botched that, I know, but he's a great coach. He's always coached triple option. He's from Hawaii. He's actually got a run and shoot background, which is crazy to me, but it's fun. Jeff Monken is the coach of Army. He does a great job. He was the head coach at Georgia Southern. He's a triple option guy, and he took that to Army and integrated some spread principles, and I think it's crazy how much the spread has turned into an offense every team can run just due to some different types of concepts. Yes, that's the word. And oh yeah, Ahmad Bradshaw's brother played at Army. Yep, that was cool. It's all cool stuff. Man. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to come back and hit you guys with the NFL storylines from this past week. Anyways, thanks for listening this far into it. Happy to have you here. This is the Chris Renne Show, episode 30. Welcome back, everybody. It's your host, Chris Renne here. Christopher Renne, as my mom likes it to be. Yeah, if you haven't yet, give us a follow on Instagram, mbasementprod. Give us a follow on Twitter at mbasementprod. Give me a follow on Instagram, ChrisRenne5, and give me a follow on Twitter, Chris_Renne. Whew! This episode is brought to you by Freight Saver. If you need help with LTL, FTL, expedited shipping, go to freightsaver.com and get a quote today. Dun, 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 dun. That's the NFL song if you didn't know. So last week in review, I want to start with a funny story. I've been playing DraftKings this year since about week 5 when I knew my fantasy season was over. I started with $5 and I worked my way up all the way up to about $40. So I was playing 3 $10 double ups, and a double up is where you put $10 in and you get 20 out if you win it, and you have to finish in the top half or a certain amount of people to win it. So I'd been on fire with those. I started with 2 $2 double ups, got to $8. Then I played 2 $4 doubles up, got to $16. Played 2 5s and then a $6 big competition. Did not do well in the big competition. Did well in the 2 double ups. I was up to $20. Did 2 tenors. Oh no, I did a tenor and then 2 5ers. Then I had up to, I think I was 40 by then. The math adds up. Regardless, I had quite a bit of money going into this weekend. I played most of it, and I think at my peak I was about to win like about $150. It would have been a great end to the semester. Would have been awesome. Would have been probably where I cashed out in DraftKings. Probably would have left like 40 in there. Probably would have cashed out about $100. Would have been a lot of fun. But the afternoon turbo killed my DraftKings, and I've got 2 more $10 ones going right now from my last bit of money. Well, a $10 and a $5 for the Monday, Thursday prime times. So hopefully I get back up to at least like 30 by the end of the weekend, or by the start of next weekend, so I can keep playing. Because once I'm out of money in it, I'm done. Yeah. So DraftKings, it'll give a lot, but it'll also take away just as fast. I was doing extremely well until Dallas got down and had to start airing out the football, or the game got close. And then Amari Cooper took over and ended up with 45 fantasy points because every single person with Amari Cooper on their team ended up beating me. And I ended up getting like 60th out of 100, and I missed the money by 10 spots, which was horrific because for that whole first half and most of the second half, I took a nap because I was in 6th place. No, I took a nap because I was doing terrible. And then I woke up and I was like, oh, 6th place. And then I was watching the end of that Cowboys game against the Eagles, and I just literally saw my money slipping through my hands. And that was a fun way. That was a fun Sunday. So I went to my fraternity house and played Super Smash Brothers. Fought the pain away. Whew. All right, so last week in review, NFL storylines. The Miracle in Miami, the best play of the season, no doubt. So the Patriots and Miami always play close in Miami. They never play close when Miami has to go up to the cold weather in that second game of the season. But regardless, let's go check out some box scores and some stats. It was a close, highly competitive game. I think Tom Brady did really well for my fantasy team. I think Gronk did really well for my fantasy team. And it ended up being 33-34. The Patriots put on a show in the second quarter, but surprisingly, the Dolphins stayed close and kept it interesting. I'm pretty sure Gostkowski missed 2 extra points, and I think that was the difference. in the game. So they lost. The Patriots ended up losing 34-33, but should have had 35 points. That should have never been a thing. Tom Brady had a day. 358 yards, 3 touchdowns, but they couldn't control the tempo like they're accustomed to doing because guess what? The Dolphins came and put on a show as well. Tannehill played a very efficient game. Frank Gore, flashback Friday, am I right? 7.7 yards per carry. Dominated the line of scrimmage. Brandon Bolden popped off. And then Kenyon Drake scored arguably one of the greatest touchdowns in NFL history. Not to be dramatic or anything. So it all started. It was a typical hook and ladder style play. There was an option. He flipped it to another receiver who was running to the side. He started getting tackled. Flips it out to Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake cuts back across the middle, makes the defender miss. Gets upfield, wants to pitch it back. Doesn't, takes off. And guess what? He's got one guy to beat. Not a defender. Rob Gronkowski. And Rob Gronkowski's never going to catch Kenyon Drake, not in this state of his physical body. So I don't think it changes my opinion. I do think the Patriots will figure it out. I think once their running backs get healthy, they'll still be my pick to win the AFC East. Well, they are my pick to win the AFC East. The AFC altogether. I'm still not sold on the Chiefs now that I want to say one of their top 3 players is gone. Kareem Hunt. I know Spencer Ware's not bad. I know they picked up Shakandrick West, who's a good receiving back out of the backfield, but I think they're missing that very consistent player. I think their explosiveness is still dangerous, but I think when you play a good secondary, that could cancel out Tyreek Hill a little bit, and I think that could cancel out Travis Kelce a little bit. A team I was super excited about earlier in the season fell apart. The Browns looked very good against them. Cam Newton went and quoted himself, and I think it's going to be one of those quotes that are iconic because Cam said he's been playing the best football he's ever played and then followed that up with 4 interceptions and then a loss to the Cleveland Browns. Now, in Cam Newton's defense, I think Baker Mayfield put on a show. It was the best game he played as a pro. It was his most complete game from beginning to end. Now, last week, Baker put up insane stats but had the worst first half of his life and then came back and played in the second quarter. And listening to Chris Carter talk about it during the game, he said, it doesn't matter when a young quarterback plays. In garbage time, they learn a lot. And that's what happened with Baker. And he came out, and he looked as dangerous as he felt that first game he dominated. Now, as you guys know, my biggest problem with Baker Mayfield's his talking, and I think he was a little bit more humble after that game. I think he's been a little bit more humble since he said he was feeling dangerous. Flipping to the other side, the Panthers were looking really good. And Christian McCaffrey's been playing unbelievable. And Cam had been playing unbelievable up until last week. But Cam missed a lot of easy throws. And it's been what his career has been. Cam Newton is one of the guys who has extremely high highs. When he's playing his best, it's beautiful. It's unbelievable to watch. And he's one of the funnest players in the league. But when he has the lowest lows, it's losing and getting outplayed by a rookie quarterback and watching him throw a touchdown late to beat you. And I think it showed the Browns are taking some steps. The Browns are taking some steps in the right direction. I'll say that for sure. Oh, the Rams absolutely got murdered. I think the Bears showed the blueprint on how to beat the Rams, and that's just beating the crap out of them physically. I think that Khalil Mack trade is going to be beneficial. I don't think Mitchell Trubisky is a good enough quarterback for the Bears to win a Super Bowl, but I think they could be very dangerous in the playoff. And I think Mitch Trubisky is better than Rex Grossman, and I think the defense they have right now is better than that defense that lost to Peyton Manning. I thought Jared Goff looked the most uncomfortable he's looked all season. I think Khalil Mack was in his head. I think that pass rush was getting to him a little too much. They definitely could not establish a run game, which is a major aspect to why their passing game is so beautiful when it works. Matt Nagy showed McVay who the genius was, and that's that's something. I think the young offensive coach is Matt Nagy's a young offensive coach, but his defense is ready to roll. I don't think the Rams have the physicality to win in the playoffs. So if they don't get home field advantage, I don't trust them going to a place that's very cold. So once I go through my power rankings, I'll explain a little bit more about how I feel about the Rams there. So we'll move on to my next NFL storyline. The biggest game of the season is Thursday. Philip Rivers has never had a knack for the big game. He hasn't played in really many truthfully huge games. He's had some fourth quarter drives that have won games. He's played some great things. But he kept getting beat by Tom Brady through most of his long, illustrious career. He's the only one in that first round draft class with Big Ben and Eli Manning to not have won a Super Bowl. He hasn't played in a Super Bowl. I love Philip Rivers. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks. And I'm super excited for this Thursday night football game. Chargers versus Chiefs. So you've got the new blood of the NFL in Patrick Mahomes. You saw his no-look pass Sunday. He's exciting. He's fun. He's flary. But the Chiefs are susceptible to big plays. I don't think their secondary is very good. I don't think their linebackers are great. And I think they've been helped by an extremely efficient, extremely aggressive, and extremely good offense. They can score any time. They have 3 or 4 guys on that team who are extremely explosive. They now have 3, I'd say. I couldn't tell you a receiver on the Chiefs that wasn't Tyreek Hill. I think Sammy Watkins is on the Chiefs now. He's been all right. I think that just shows you that they've used their running backs extremely well. I think that shows you they've used Tyreek Hill extremely well. And I think that shows you they spread the ball around extremely well. But we go to the other side, and the San Diego Chargers are just as efficient and aggressive offensively. And going through the Chargers personnel on the offensive side of the ball, they have Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams, Travis Benjamin. Antonio Gates is a little old. He got picked up because their other tight end got hurt in the preseason. Pulled him out of retirement. Philip Rivers is great, an all-timer. A Hall of Fame quarterback, regardless of if he wins a Super Bowl or not. If he plays in one, it's just more of a guarantee. If he wins one, it's a for sure thing. Philip Rivers is playing for his legacy this year, I think. I think this is it. I think this is the best team the Chargers are going to have. If Melvin Gordon's healthy, they have the best offensive personnel, I think, in the league. They have one of my favorite receivers. They have a deep threat in Tyrell Williams. They have a big receiver coming into his own in Mike Williams, the guy from Clemson. He was a big-time receiver prospect coming out and hasn't really lived up to the hype, but he's been playing extremely well this year, and I think he's finding his footing. I think the Chiefs have struggled a little bit with turnovers the last couple games, and I think you look at the defensive side of the Chargers, you have Joey Bosa's back healthy. It's been a highly ranked one. Derwin James has been an absolute monster. They have the best corner in the league, I'd say, right now. And, hold on, I'm blanking. He's been dominating all year. People don't throw his way. That's how good he's been. I was just reading an article about him. Hold on, stop yelling at me. Bolt up. Casey Hayward, yes, that's it. Derwin James has been a revelation in that secondary. Their linebackers have even been good, so it's been quite sensational. Yeah, let's look at these. Let's look at these boys. Yeah, so let's go. Hold on, I'm on Football Reference. Yeah, so Derwin James, just getting some names. Jatavis Brown has 79 tackles. Jaleel Avde has been awesome. Desmond King, I think he went to Michigan State. He's been awesome. great DB, great corner. Casey Hayward's been sensational. Denzel Perryman's been awesome. Melvin Ingram's one of those game-changing defensive linemen, and when you have him paired up with Joey Bosa, that defensive line's absurd. Joey Bosa's played 4 games. He started 3 of them, and he's had 18 tackles already, 14 solo, 3 for loss, and he's hit the QB 9 times. So that just shows you that since Joey Bosa's returned, Melvin Ingram's quarterback hits have increased as well. And I think if the Chargers are going to do it, they have to win the division and have home field advantage. I think the Chiefs need home field advantage. I think the only team that can win the AFC without home field advantage is the New England Patriots because they've done that before. I'm out on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you that the Browns are going to win the division. So that's why I'm out on the Steelers. But yeah, no, I think this game is going to be the biggest game of the season, and I think it's going to establish the precedent going into the playoffs. And I think Phillip Rivers is going to outplay Patrick Mahomes, and this is what I'm going to go on record and say this week. I think Phillip Rivers wins this game. If Melvin Gordon plays, I guarantee a Chargers win. Mahomes is going to play good, but I think it's going to be similar to the Rams game where he forces some things, and he's going to turn the ball over in crucial times. I think Derwin James is going to be hell for that run game and that pass game. I think it's going to be rough for the Chiefs playing a real defense without a very stable running back in Kareem Hunt. So, yeah, I think the Chargers are going to win this game. Fun fact, next section. Browns are not mathematically eliminated. Steelers need to go 0-3, and the Ravens need to go 0-3, and the Browns make the playoffs. Crazier things have happened. Just saying. Still got a shot at the wild card, too. Crazier things have happened. I'm just saying. All right, so my last segment of the day are my top NFL power rankings, my top 5. Here we go. My top 5 NFL power rankings. Here we go. Number 5. My number 5 is the Dallas Cowboys. I think their defense is the best in the league right now. I think they get a pass rush consistently. I think Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch are extremely athletic and mobile linebackers who always make tackles. I think their secondary with Cheetah Awubi is pretty good, and their other corner is also pretty good. Don't know his name. Doesn't seem to compete much, so that's good. You look at their safety, the half-white guy, I think he is. Good player. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. I literally watched the Cowboys yesterday. I'm just so mad they lost me money. I'm not going to remember these names. You go through it. Their offense, Zeke has been dominant during this win streak. Once they traded for Amari Cooper, it really opened up Zeke's running game. That's crazy. How having a very versatile wide receiver takes a player out of the box and makes them have to worry about him. And what happens when you don't take a player out of the box and you leave a great receiver like Amari Cooper in a man-to-man coverage situation? An 85-yard touchdown that loses you $40 on DraftKings happens. My only worry with Dak and why I'd put them at 5th is Dak's not the best quarterback, but he's a winner, and I think that showed a lot against the Eagles. He had a lot of chances to put the game away and didn't, but when it mattered most, he came up huge. I took the Patriots out for the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are a better team right now. They were a better team last week, and as you guys know, this is a very fluid list. 4, the Rams. The Rams were, I think, my number 2 team last week. I think it went Saints, Rams, Chiefs. So Rams are 4 now. They played their worst game of the season. It happens. Sometimes you just get outmatched by a team on a weekend on a Sunday. That's fine. I think they're still one of the most talented offensive teams in the NFL. I still think they're a good bet to make the Super Bowl. I think if they get some edge on defense, they'll be good. I think Goff finally got hit in the mouth again for the first time this season. I think that's going to be huge in his development in becoming the great quarterback I always predicted he'd be. I think the Rams are still a favorite. I just think you had to move them down. You saw how to beat them. You have to just beat them up. And once you beat them up, that moves them down the list. Number 3, the San Diego Chargers. They have weapons all over the field. I don't think people realize that. They're very underrated offensively from a weapons standpoint, but Keenan Allen's a top 5 receiver in the NFL. When he's healthy, he's consistently one of the best receivers in the league. That doesn't help. Tyrell Williams has been a little inconsistent throughout the year, but when it matters, he's caught some bombs, and he is a very good possession receiver on third downs. Mike Williams, big-time target, awesome player. Finally coming into his own, like I said in my preview for that Chiefs-Chargers game. If Melvin Gordon is healthy, it's my favorite set of offensive weapons in the league with a very good quarterback. I like Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon more than I like Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. I'm just going to say it. I think Phillip Rivers is having his best season. I think the Chargers have a chance to take the second spot in my power rankings right now. And number 2, who the Chargers are playing this Saturday. I already talked about them. They're an offense of juggernaut, the Chiefs. You saw it. You saw the no-look passes. You saw the explosiveness of Tyreek Hill. Do they struggle on defense a little bit? But it doesn't matter when you have an offense that can put up 50 points on any given night. Andy Reid has these guys going. Losing Kareem Hunt hurts, but Spencer Ware's a good running back. Patrick Mahomes can throw a ball 100 yards standing. You have all this talent. Tyreek Hill can score any second. You have probably the best young tight end in the league in Travis Kelce. And a pass rush that's pretty consistent. If they had Eric Berry, they'd be number 1 on my power rankings, but they don't. So he's not. So they're not. And number 1 on my power rankings, the Saints. They played terrible and still won 28-14 against the Buccaneers. A rivalry game. Yeah, the Buccaneers are reeling. This might be Jameis Winston's coming to an end party. But I think the Saints' defense is still really good. I think their secondary has played a little inconsistent. I think Marshawn Lattimore has had some rookie sophomore slump inconsistencies. Von Bell stepped up and been a very good free safety, another Ohio State guy. And Eli Apple changed that secondary. Cameron Jordan's one of the most dominant 3 and outside edge rushers in the league. He's a very physical defensive end who plays a run and pass equally well. Is he the best pass rusher? No. Is he the best run stopper? No, but he does both so greatly. It makes him such a weapon on the defensive side of the ball. Drew Brees is still dealing. He struggled the last 2 weeks, but eventually when you're playing perfect, you're going to hit a little decline. I think he'll get in the film room. I think he'll keep studying. I think his body's a little fatigued. He's a little older, but I think come playoff time with that first-round bye and that home field advantage, he'll come out ready to go in the Superdome with New Orleans jumping. Notice my Super Bowl pick. The Patriots are not in my top 5. They're like 6 or 7, I'd say. I might put out a full list of my power rankings going into Thursday on my blog, the Chris's Corner blog. Check it out. I'll post it on the Twitter. If I don't, it's whatever. I'm trying to set up a blog website, which will make it a lot more effective to do these posts. So look for that come New Year's. But that's my show today. In conclusion, it's been a good finals for me. I've had 2 grades go upward, at least a plus. I haven't had any grades drop significantly. That's good. I should come out of this semester with about a 3.0 GPA once again. So we're surviving. It might be a little over. It might be a little under going into this Portuguese final. I haven't got my stats grade back yet. Like I said, living on a prayer, baby. Shout out to Jovi. Going to be a great stretch run in the NFL. This league's never had more parity the last couple of years. I think the last couple of years you've been able to see who is going to be in the Super Bowl a lot earlier than this. I think there's 6 or 7 teams who are very viable Super Bowl candidates and contenders. To list them off the top of my head, the Saints, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Patriots, the Bears, if Mitch Trubisky can get a little bit better. So there's 6 right there. I probably missed one on my closing comment, but that doesn't matter really. We'll talk about Super Bowl contenders more next week. I think I wanted to put a heavy emphasis on the Heisman Trophy this week, which was fun. But once again, this is your host, Chris Renne. Follow me on Instagram at ChrisRenne5 and on Twitter at Chris_Renne. And don't forget to follow Mom's Basement Prod on both Twitter and Instagram at MBasementProd. Look for Pints at the Round Table Thursday and a Christmas special coming soon. Anyways, thanks for listening once again. I am out.